Hello, English learners. Welcome back to another podcast here at English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we have a fun dialogue.
That's right. Well, maybe the language in this lesson you won't use every day, but it's fun, it's interesting, and it's a little bit on the lighter side.
That's right. Today we're going to be looking at baby talk. So we're going to see some of these words that aren't really words. They're not real words that you can find in the dictionary, but native English speakers use them when they're talking to little babies.
Yeah, in many languages, there's a rule for how you make baby talk words, right?
Right.
But in English, we don't have really clear rules about how you make a word a baby word. So we're going to teach you a few of these baby words.
Exactly. So before we listen to the dialogue, why don't we take a look at vocabulary preview?
Vocabulary preview.
Okay, we have two words here we're going to hear in the dialogue. And the first one is diaper.
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 Okay, so a diaper. A baby uses a diaper.
That's right. It's a piece of cloth or material that you put around the baby so that it can go to the bathroom and not make a mess.
Okay, a diaper. Mm-hmm. Now, we also have another word that we commonly use in the English language. It's nana.
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 So Nana is the name we call a grandmother.
Right, so an informal name, just like in Spanish, we would say something like abue or abuelita.
Or in Italian, you might say oma. This is another way that we can call grandma or granny. Nana.
Okay, so Nana. Mm-hmm. Why don't we listen to the dialogue for the first time? Let's see how these new parents are talking to their little baby using baby talk.
Honey, the baby's up again.
It's your turn. I went last night.
Fine. Hello, little baby. Why are you crying, little baby? Oh, I see. You made a doo-doo.
What's going on, hun? Why is the baby crying?
The little baby made a doo-doo.
What a good boy. Let's get this icky diaper off you.
Looky what I have here. Mickey Mouse jammies. Oopsie daisy. Did the little baby just tinkle all over Daddy?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. You just made a wee-wee all over Daddy.
Hold still while I change his yucky diaper.
What's going on in here?
Oh, look, it's Nana. Say hi to Nana.
Oh, he's so adorable. I could just eat him up. Okay, say bye to Nana. Time to go Betty bye.
Okay, well, that was pretty cute, wasn't it?
A cute dialogue. The baby seemed to be cute, and well, everyone's excited about the new baby.
Mm-hmm, but they use some really interesting little words that are pretty unfamiliar. So let's look at them now in Language Takeaway.
All right, so as we mentioned before, these words aren't actually words. You won't find them in the dictionary.
Right, but you'll hear them commonly when people are talking to babies, and you might see them in a movie or something like that. So why don't we get started with the first one?
All right, the first word that may seem a little bit strange, the father said, hello, whittle baby.
Whittle baby.
Okay, whittle.
So whittle is just a baby talk way of saying little.
Little, that's right. Now, the father saw that the baby was crying because he made a doo-doo.
The baby made the doo-doo, not the father.
Right, the baby made a doo-doo.
Mm-hmm, a doo-doo.
Okay, so basically a doo-doo is when the baby poos or poops in the diaper.
Okay, so, sometimes you go to the bathroom and it might take a little bit longer.
Exactly.
That's because of the doo-doo.
The doo-doo. All right, the actual technical or maybe the proper English word for this would be defecate.
Okay, so make a doo-doo.
All right, now our third words are interesting because he said icky diaper.
That's right, an icky diaper.
And then he also said yucky.
So we've got two words here that mean the same thing, icky and yucky.
And basically means disgusting.
Right, something that's really, really not nice.
So you would say icky or yucky.
Now, these words have other similar words. We might recognize ick or yuck.
Right, so you would use ick or yuck if something is disgusting, but when you're kind of talking to a baby, you would say icky, yucky,
Yes,
smelly.
the adjective. Now, our next word, the father said he has some Mickey Mouse jammies.
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 Okay, so what are jammies?
Well, the word jammies is short for pajamas.
Okay, pajamas, so the clothes that you put on when you go to sleep.
Jammies.
Jammies. All right, and now for our last two words, they mean the same thing as well. The little baby tinkled all over daddy.
So to tinkle.
And then his mom said a wee-wee all over daddy.
You made a wee-wee.
Okay, so tinkle and wee-wee.
Basically also going to the bathroom, but this time to pee.
To pee, exactly. To urinate. Wee-wee.
So the verb to tinkle and the noun a wee-wee.
Very good. So these are the words that we have for you today in language takeaway. As you can see, they're kind of cute and very common when you're talking to babies, and you have to be a little bit nicer.
All right, so why don't we listen to the dialogue another time, a little bit slower, and you'll catch these words a little bit easier.
Honey, the baby's up again.
It's your turn. I went last night.
Fine. Hello, little baby. Why are you crying, little baby? Oh, I see. You made a doo-doo.
What's going on, hun? Why is the baby crying?
The little baby made a doo-doo.
What a good boy. Let's get this icky diaper off you.
Looky what I have here. Mickey Mouse jammies. Oopsie daisy. Did the little baby just tinkle all over daddy?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. You just made a wee-wee all over daddy.
Hold still while I change this yucky diaper.
What's going on in here?
Oh, look, it's Nana. Say hi to Nana.
Oh, he's so adorable. I could just eat him up. Okay, say bye to Nana. Time to go Betty bye.
All right, so now that we've seen those great words, let's take a look at two phrases that we're going to look at now in Fluency Builder.
Fluency builder.
So the mother didn't really want to get up and look after the baby. She said, "It's your turn.
It's your turn.
It's your turn."
So when she says it's your turn,
That means you should do it now.
right, so she's basically saying now you have to do it. I did it last time, so now you have to do it. It's your turn.
That's right. It's your turn. And well, the Nana, the grandmother, she was really, of course, she really loves this little baby. And she said, I could just eat him up.
I could just eat him up.
I could just eat him up.
Now, does she want to really eat him?
No, of course. Of course not.
So what does she mean by this?
This is a phrase we often use with very cute things. It just means, oh my God, he's so cute.
Okay, he's so cute that I wish I could just hug him and kiss him a lot.
Yes, we might use this with babies or maybe with puppies. I could just eat him up.
All right. So great two phrases that we've just taken a look at. Let's go back to our dialogue for the last time, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about these babies.
Honey, the baby's up again.
It's your turn. I went last night.
Fine. Hello, little baby. Why are you crying, little baby? Oh, I see. You made a doo-doo.
What's going on, hun? Why is the baby crying?
The little baby made a doo-doo.
What What a good boy. Let's get this icky diaper off you.
Looky what I have here. Mickey Mouse jammies. Whoopsie daisy. Did the widow baby just tinkle all over Daddy?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. You just made a wee-wee all over Daddy.
Hold still while I change his yucky diaper.
What's going on in here?
Oh, look, it's Nana. Say hi to Nana.
Oh, he's so adorable. I could just eat him up. Okay, say bye to Nana. Time to go Betty bye.
Okay, so they are obviously new parents. They've just had a baby, so they're excited about him waking up, and they're all excited about the baby and how he wakes up and
Yep.
everything. But an interesting thing, the baby was sleeping in another room.
In English-speaking countries, people have sort of two different opinions about how you should sleep with your baby. You know, some people want to have the baby in the bed with them, right? But some people think, no, the baby should definitely sleep in its own room.
Okay, in another room in a crib.
Yeah.
Right, I think this is a very important issue because many people consider that it's a good thing for the baby to sleep with the parents and it feels safe and you can make sure the baby's okay.
And it's easier for, you know, waking up to feed the baby and change its diaper.
Exactly. And well, if the baby is sleeping with its parents, it might not wake up as much.
But other people think if you let the baby sleep with the parents, the baby will become kind of spoiled and not a very good baby.
Right, it might become too dependent on the parents. And for example, if you ever want to go out or leave the baby with a babysitter, or when the baby starts maybe preschool or kindergarten, it might not be really independent. So why don't you tell us what you think? Do you think it's a good idea to allow a baby to sleep with you, or should it sleep in its own room?
Yeah, you can tell us at our website, englishpod.com, where you can also ask any questions you have about the language in this dialogue.
All right, guys, so we'll see you there, and until next time.
Thanks for downloading, and goodbye.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. Dinner.
Din din.
Bottle.
Baba.
Soother, pacifier. A thing you put in a baby's mouth for it to suck.
Binky.
A small injury, something that hurts.
Boo boo.
Toilet.
Potty.
Gross, disgusting.
Icky.
Awake.
Up.
An opportunity or responsibility to do something.
Your turn.
Little.
Whittle.
Solid waste discharged from body.
Doo doo.
A piece of cloth used as underwear that holds body waste.
Diaper.
Pajamas.
Jammies.
To urinate.
Tinkle.
Urine.
Wee wee.
Don't move.
Hold still.
Gross, disgusting.
Yucky.
Grandma.
Nana.
To enjoy something greatly.
I could just eat up.
Go to sleep.
Betty bye.
Oops. An informal interjection when a mistake is made. Let's try that faster. Soother, pacifier. A thing you put in a baby's mouth for it to suck.
Binky.
Gross, disgusting.
Yucky.
Don't move.
Hold still.
Awake.
Up.
A small injury, something that hurts.
Boo-boo.
Oops. An informal interjection when a mistake is made. Bottle.
Baba.
Little.
Whittle.
Solid waste discharged from body.
Doo-doo.
An opportunity or responsibility to do something.
Your turn.
Toilet.
Potty.
Gross, disgusting.
Icky.
To enjoy something greatly.
I could just eat. Up.
A piece of cloth used as underwear that holds body waste.
Diaper.
To urinate.
Tinkle.
Pajamas.
Jammies.
Urine.
Wee-wee.
Go to sleep.
Betty bye.
Dinner.
Din-din.
Grandma.
Nana.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Your turn.
Sweetheart, it's your turn to go check on the baby. Last time she cried, I got out of bed.
Your turn.
Is it your turn or my turn to change the baby's diaper?
Your turn.
Vanessa, I did the dishes yesterday. Now it's your turn.
Doo-doo.
Does the baby have a little doo-doo in her diaper?
Doo-doo.
Honey, please check to see if little Mikey made a doo-doo.
Doo-doo.
I can't believe he went doo-doo 3 times today.
Wee-wee.
Sarah always has to make a wee-wee after she drinks her bottle.
Wee-wee.
Is there any wee-wee in your diaper, baby?
Wee-wee.
Make sure you make a wee-wee before we leave to go to your grandma's house.
Icky.
Ew, don't touch that. That's icky.
Icky.
Billy, don't sit on the ground. It's icky.
Icky.
Do not eat that gum off the floor. It's icky.
I could just eat. Up.
Carolyn is just so cute. I could eat her up.
I could just eat. Up.
Couldn't you just eat him up? He's so tiny.
I could just eat up.
I could eat you up. You look so adorable.
Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to be looking at English, slang, and informal words used in the 1980s.
So this is the next part of our decades dialogues.
Exactly. So the 1980s, maybe for many of our listeners, is a little bit more familiar. And there are a lot of phrases and a lot of words that were born in this decade, and we still use them today.
So we're going to learn those words and phrases in this dialogue, but before we start, we need to preview a couple of words. So let's go now to vocabulary preview.
Vocabulary preview.
So one of the words that we're going to hear in our dialogue is ride.
Is that your ride?
Is that your ride?
So a ride. Normally we know this word as a verb, right?
Right, to ride a bicycle. In this context, it's an informal way of referring to your car.
So a ride is a car.
Yeah, so I just bought a new ride.
All right, well, maybe you'll take me for a ride in your new ride.
In your new ride.
Yeah.
All right. And we're also going to be looking at this word loaded.
He's loaded.
So if you are loaded,
You're really rich.
you have a lot of money.
Yep.
You are loaded with money. So loaded and ride, those are our two words for vocabulary preview. And well, let's listen to our 1980s dialogue and see what happens.
Jim, what's up, man?
Charlie, is that your ride? It's butt ugly, dude.
Don't be an airhead. This is a 1969 Chevy Impala. I just need to fix it up a bit. In a couple of months, this baby is gonna be wicked.
Not even. Check it out. Now that's a fresh ride.
Well, too bad the driver's a major dweeb. Anyone can have a car like that if their daddy's loaded like his.
He's coming this way. Be cool. Hey guys, what do you think of my automobile? Isn't it bad to the bone?
Word. The ladies are gonna be lining up to get with you when they see you driving around in that car.
You really think so? For sure. Awesome.
Psych! You totally fell for it.
You're a real scumbag, Charlie. When I do the nasty with the prom queen, we'll see who has the last laugh. Dude, don't have a cow.
All right, so typical high school students of the decade, right?
Definitely very, very 80s.
Very 80s. And well, of course, you always have the situation with the cool kids and maybe the kids that are not so cool and, well, they're making fun of him, right?
Yeah, but they use some really cool words. So let's look at them now in language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, so the first word that we saw in language takeaway and was really interesting, this word, butt ugly.
It's butt ugly.
That car is butt ugly.
So when something is butt ugly, it's really ugly, right?
It's very ugly. It's not just ugly, it's very ugly.
And butt is like
From your
bottom.
From your bottom, yeah.
Yeah.
So he said the car was butt ugly, and the other guy answered by saying, hey, don't be an airhead.
An airhead.
Don't be an airhead.
So an airhead is someone with air in their head.
In their head. So they're not very smart.
They've got no brains.
They've got no brains, right? So he said, don't be an airhead. Don't be such an idiot. All right. Now, for the third word, he described his car as being wicked.
It's wicked.
Wicked. That's wicked.
It's gonna be wicked.
Okay, so this is a very 80s way of saying it's going to be cool.
Yep.
It's going to be awesome.
It's gonna be wicked.
All right. And now when they saw another car pulling up, a new car, he described it as a fresh ride.
It's a fresh ride.
Now we understand that ride is a car, right? So a fresh ride.
It's another way of saying cool.
Okay, so kind of similar, wicked and fresh.
Yeah. Now, finally, at the end of our dialogue, they said, you're a real scumbag, Charlie. So this word scumbag is interesting.
You're a scumbag.
A scumbag.
Yeah, it's interesting and it's still used today, I would say.
Yep. So when someone is a scumbag, they're just really not a nice person.
Yeah, they're not nice, or they're not, maybe to a certain point, honest.
They're not kind.
Exactly. You're a scumbag. Mm-hmm. Okay, but it's not a very harsh word, right? It's not harsh to call somebody a scumbag?
Well, it's not like a swear word, but it's certainly not a nice thing to say to someone.
Okay, exactly. All right, so let's listen to all these adjectives that we've just looked at right now, again in our dialogue, and then we'll come back and look at some more phrases.
Jim! What's up, man?
Charlie, is that your ride? It's butt ugly, dude.
Don't be an airhead. This is a 1969 Chevy Impala. I just need to fix it up a bit. In a couple of months, this baby's gonna be wicked.
Not even. Check it out. Now that's a fresh ride.
Too bad the driver is a major dweeb. Anyone can have a car like that if their daddy's loaded like his.
He's coming this way. Be cool. Hey guys, what do you think of my automobile? Isn't it bad to the bone?
Word, the ladies are gonna be lining up to get with you when they see you driving around in that car.
You really think so? For sure. Awesome.
Psych! You totally fell for it.
You are a real scumbag, Charlie. When I do the nasty with the prom queen, we'll see who has the last laugh. Dude, don't have a cow.
Okay, well, you know what, Marco? I love the 80s. I love the language of the 80s. I love the music of the 80s. And I'm really loving these phrases from the 80s. So why don't we look at them now in Fluency Builder?
Fluency Builder.
All right, so on Fluency Builder today, let's take a look at these phrases that you were talking about. And the first one is very interesting. So these two guys that were making fun of this other person that was in this nice car, and he called him a major dweeb.
A major dweeb.
He's a major dweeb.
What a major dweeb.
Now let's break this into two parts first. Well, let's see what dweeb means.
Well, a dweeb is a very uncool person.
Okay, so kind of similar to a nerd.
Yeah, a small kind of guy with no power.
Okay, he's a dweeb. Now, this word major.
It just means big, really serious.
So it's a way of emphasizing, right?
Yeah. And you can say anything. You can have a major anything, like, I've got a major headache.
Or I can say, I have a major problem this week. Mm-hmm. Okay, so major, a very big problem.
Yep. Now they're talking about this really cool car, and the guy who is a bit of a dweeb, he said, isn't it bad to the bone?
Bad to the bone.
It's bad to the bone.
All right, now, this is also part of a famous song, Bad to the Bone, but what does it mean?
Well, when something is bad to the bone, it's super cool. It's like, it's so dangerous that it's cool.
Exactly. It's very, very cool. It's bad to the bone. Now, this is not used anymore.
No. Don't walk out of your house and use this phrase tomorrow.
All right, so, but it's interesting to know because there is a famous song that has this phrase in it, so bad to the bone.
All right, so the car was so cool, it was bad to the bone that all of the ladies would be wanting to get with the driver.
All right, so somebody wants to get with you.
He just wants to get with you. So if you want to get with someone, you want to have sex with them.
Right, so if you want to get with someone, basically it means that you want to have sex with them. But there's another phrase that was used in the dialogue that means pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, to do the nasty.
To do the nasty.
They're doing the nasty.
Okay, now this was a very popular way of saying it in the 80s. It means to have sex as well.
Yeah, but this one is a little bit rude, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more direct.
Yeah.
If you and your friends are talking and you say, hey, I think that girl wants to get with you, it's a little bit more casual and less obvious.
Yeah, yes. Do the nasty is a little bit more, rude.
Yeah, a little bit more direct.
Yeah.
And now the last phrase that we're going to look at today was made famous by the cartoons, The Simpsons.
Mm-hmm. And it's don't have a cow.
Don't have a cow, man.
Don't have a cow.
So to not have a cow, don't have a cow means?
To get really angry, to freak out, to get upset.
All right, so now we know that you say don't have a cow, but can I say it and use it in the positive? Can I say, hey, my boss totally had a cow today in the office?
Yeah, and it means, again, so it freaked out, got angry, made a big deal of something.
Okay, he had a cow.
Yeah, so Frank's gonna have a cow when he finds out I smashed his car.
Of course Frank is going to have a cow. How can you smash his car? All right, but now it's time for us to listen to this dialogue for the last time, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about this decade of the 1980s.
Jim, what's up, man?
Charlie, is that your ride? It's butt ugly, dude.
Don't be an airhead. This is a 1969 Chevy Impala. I just need to fix it up a bit. In a couple of months, this baby is gonna be wicked.
Not even. Check it out. Now that's a fresh ride.
Well, too bad the driver's a major dweeb. Anyone can have a car like that if their daddy's loaded like his.
He's coming this way. Be cool. Hey guys, what do you think of my automobile? Isn't it bad to the bone?
Word. The ladies are gonna be lining up to get with you when they see you driving around in that car.
You really think so? For sure. Awesome.
Psych! You totally fell for it.
You're a real scumbag, Charlie. When I do the nasty with the prom queen, we'll see who has the last laugh. Dude, don't have a cow.
Okay, so Marco, when I was listening to the dialogue this time, I heard a really cool word. They said psych.
Right. Now, this was a very popular thing during the 80s when you would say to somebody, psych.
So this is like saying, just kidding,
Just
right?
kidding, right? So you would say, oh, Eric, I really like your hat.
Oh, thank you.
Psych, that hat is terrible.
Oh.
Right? So that's how you would use it. You
Okay.
would give somebody a compliment, or you would lie to somebody.
Yeah.
And then tell them psych, and then like tell them the truth, like, oh, that hat is terrible, or oh, I was just kidding.
Okay, so psych. What a great
Psych.
phrase.
It was very, very popular, and when I was in school, we would use it as well. We would psych each other out.
So do we still use this phrase today?
I don't think we use it today. I don't think it's cool anymore.
Well, if you'd use it, it's kind of like you're joking, right?
Yeah, and I think it would make people laugh. Like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, you're joking about how you're a little bit old-fashioned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm very sure you would surprise a lot of your native English-speaking friends if you use this phrase.
A good one to try out. Now, if you have any questions about this phrase or any other of the language, come to our website at englishpod.com.
Right, we're there to answer all your questions, and also let us know any other lessons or topics that you would like to learn about in the future.
Well, thanks for listening to this lesson, you guys, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. A silly or stupid person.
Airhead.
Information.
411.
Nerd. Loser.
Dweeb.
Relax. Chill out.
Take a chill pill.
Very good.
Wicked.
A male who plays a lot of sports.
Jock.
To be romantic with.
To get with.
Leave a place quickly.
Jet.
Rich.
Loaded.
Leave me alone. Go away. I don't care.
Bite me.
A car.
Ride.
Very ugly.
But.
Man.
Dude.
New. Cool.
Fresh.
Completely cool.
Bad to the bones.
Just kidding. I was joking.
Psych.
Get angry.
Have a cow.
Let's try that faster. Leave a place quickly.
Jet.
Very ugly.
But.
Very good.
Wicked.
New, cool.
Fresh.
A silly or stupid person.
Airhead.
A male who plays a lot of sports.
Jock.
Completely cool.
Bad to the bones.
Nerd, loser.
Dweeb.
A car.
Ride.
Just kidding. I was joking.
Psych.
Man.
Dude.
To be romantic with.
To get with.
Leave me alone. Go away. I don't care.
Bite me.
Rich.
Loaded.
Relax. Chill out.
Take a chill pill.
Information.
411.
Get angry.
Have a cow.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Airhead. I dated a girl in college and she was a real airhead. She thought Europe was a country. Airhead. Bob is a real airhead. All he can talk about is girls, parties, and drinking. Airhead. Can you believe that Nick called me an airhead? He is such a jerk. Wicked. My brother is an amazing hockey player. He has a wicked slap shot. Wicked. I just saw the new Terminator movie and it's wicked. Wicked. There is a comedian that does a wicked imitation of the president. It's so funny. Dweeb. My classmates in high school thought I was a dweeb because I liked math. Dweeb. Stop being a dweeb. Let's go out tonight. You can study tomorrow. Dweeb. Catherine has a new boyfriend, and from what I hear, he's a real dweeb. Loaded. I wish I were like Bill Gates. That guy is loaded. Loaded. Jason's father owns stock in most Fortune 500 companies. That guy is loaded. Loaded. You want to buy a Ferrari? Dude, you need to be loaded to even think about doing that. To get with. Tom has been dreaming of getting with Sarah, but she already has a boyfriend. To get with. If you want to get with Lucy, you have to be nice and sweet. To get with. I heard you got with Daniel last night. Is that true?
Hello everyone, welcome back to another podcast here at English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're looking at another one of our lessons for English of the past decades. And this time it's the 1990s.
Well, you know, the 1990s is a little easier for most of us to remember.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit more recent. We're going to be looking at a lot of language that is still used today. Most of these words and phrases are still used today, so they're going to be very useful and you're going to sound a lot more native.
A lot cooler as well, huh?
Right. So before we get started with this lesson, why don't we take a look at vocabulary preview?
Vocabulary preview.
We have two words we're going to hear in the dialogue. Now, the first one is a mall.
A mall.
M-A-L-L, mall.
All right. So a mall is basically short for shopping mall.
And a shopping mall is a big building with many stores inside.
Right. So it's like a shopping center. And our last word for vocabulary preview is gang.
The gang.
The gang.
Okay, so a gang is a group of people, right?
Yeah, it's a group of people. You can call your friends the gang. We're going to go out with the gang tonight.
Yep. Now, we sometimes hear this word and it has a negative meaning, right?
Right, like street gangs.
Yeah, so people who fight and deal drugs and all that sort of stuff.
Right, so it can have a negative and a positive meaning, but it just depends on how you use it.
Yeah, but in the dialogue, we'll hear it with a positive meaning.
Right. So that's all the words we have for vocabulary preview. Let's listen to this cool and hip dialogue from the 1990s, and we'll come back later and explain some words.
Hey, Four Eyes. What's up, man? How have you been?
Not bad. Just went to the mall and picked up some junk. Check out my new Adidas.
Those are dope. You are gonna be getting mad props from the gang, man. Anyways, have you seen Betty lately?
Dude, don't even go there. That girl started tripping because I went to the movies with Veronica the other day. I was like, look, you knew how I was before you got with me.
That's right. You are such a player, man. Dude, there's Mad Max. Let's go say hi.
Max, what's up? Are you okay? You look like you just saw a ghost.
I got an F in English class. My life is over.
Dude, get over it. You need to lay off the books for a while and have some fun. Come on, let's bounce.
Where are we going? Oh crap. My dad's gonna go postal when he finds out about this.
I'm gonna open the can of whoop-ass on you if you don't come with me right now.
Okay. Jeez.
Well, it sounds like this guy's got some problems at school, huh?
Yeah, he got an F on his paper, but you always can count on your friends to try and cheer you up by doing something.
Yeah, but they use some really great phrases and vocabulary words, so why don't we look at those now in Language Takeaway?
Language takeaway.
All right, on Language Takeaway, we're going to be looking at 5 words, and well, let's start with the first one.
So the guy was talking about his really cool new shoes, his new Adidas, right? Mm-hmm. And his friend said, those are dope.
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 Okay, so it's pretty easy to understand when something is dope.
It's really awesome.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Right, it's great. So that's dope.
Mm-hmm. And it's an adjective, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his friend said those are dope, and he said, you're going to be getting mad props from the gang.
Okay, so mad props.
Mad props.
We can divide this word in two. So let's take a look at the first part, mad.
Mad.
So we understand that mad is angry, right?
Yeah, but it can also mean a lot,
Or
right?
like amazing.
Or really.
So if I say you have mad skills.
You're really good at something. Mm-hmm. Or you can say, she has a mad amount of shoes.
All right. So he's going to get mad props. Now, props is like respect or compliments.
Yeah. So his shoes are so cool that he's going to get a lot of respect or a lot of compliments from his friends.
Exactly. Mad props.
Mad props.
So they started talking about girls, and he mentioned that this girl started tripping.
Trippin'.
Trippin'.
So to trip.
Right. As you notice, it's trippin'. It doesn't have the G at the end, which isn't really grammatically correct, but that's kind of the way it's pronounced.
Yeah, we would never say the G.
Right. So if somebody is trippin',
they're getting really upset. They're getting really angry.
Right. They're causing trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we listen to a couple of examples of how we could use trippin' for different situations?
Example 1.
Leanne was tripping because I got dirt on her car.
Example 2.
Even though I apologized for calling her fat, Jeannie was tripping all night.
Example 3.
He sent me 43 text messages and called me about 20 times. That guy is tripping over me.
Okay, so that's pretty clear. Trippin'.
All right. Now moving on to our next word. They wanted to go somewhere, and he said, come on, let's bounce.
Let's bounce.
Let's bounce.
I'm going to bounce.
Now, bounce basically means let's leave.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here.
But we might be more familiar with this word as in like a ball, right? A ball bounces off the floor.
Exactly. So I guess it's kind of the same. You kind of bounce off the floor and leave that place.
Yeah.
Let's bounce.
Okay, so for our final word, now this guy who got a bad mark on his paper, he was nervous about what his dad would say, right?
Right.
Because his dad was going to go postal.
He said, my dad is gonna go postal.
To go postal.
Now, if you go postal, it means you go crazy.
Yeah, you really freak out.
You get very angry.
Yeah, like really angry.
This word comes from the 90s because during a time it was very common in the United States that postal workers, mailmen, were going a little bit crazy, and they started shooting people and delivering some strange packages.
Well, I guess so people who work in the post office maybe don't have the most exciting jobs, and that drives them a little crazy.
Exactly. But now they have a term named after them. All right, so why don't we listen to our dialogue for the second time? We're going to slow it down a little bit, and then we'll come back.
Hey, Four Eyes. What's up, man? How have you been?
Not bad. Just went to the mall and picked up some junk. Check out my new Adidas.
Those are dope. You are gonna be getting mad props from the gang, man. Anyways, have you seen Betty lately?
Dude, don't even go there. That girl started tripping because I went to the movies with Veronica the other day. I was like, look, you knew how I was before you got with me.
That's right. You are such a player, man. Dude, there's Mad Max. Let's go say hi.
Max, what's up? Are you okay? You look like you just saw a ghost.
I got an F in English class. My life is over.
Dude, get over it. You need to lay off the books for a while and have some fun. Come on, let's bounce.
Where are we going? Oh, crap. My dad is gonna go postal when he finds out about this.
I'm gonna open a can of whoop-ass on you if you don't come with me right now.
Okay. Jeez.
Okay, so I think that was a little easier to understand. We've got a lot of pretty strange words and phrases, some interesting slang.
Yeah, and I want to take a look at this slang now, so let's get started with Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
Okay, so the guy with the new shoes, he asked his friends, have you seen Betty lately, right?
Right.
And his friend replied, don't even go there.
Right. He was like, dude, don't even go there.
Don't even go there.
So what does he mean when he says, don't even go there?
He means, don't talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
Right. Don't even touch that subject.
Don't even mention it.
Right. So if somebody wants to talk about a topic that you think is sensitive or you don't want to talk about, so say, hey, don't even go there.
So Marco, what do you think about the new tax law?
Don't even go there. I don't even want to talk about politics.
Okay, so I think that's a really actually quite helpful phrase to avoid talking about an uncomfortable subject.
Right. So he said, don't even go there. And he started talking about the girl and she was tripping. And then he said something interesting. He said, I was like, look, you knew how I was before you got with me.
Yeah, I really like this phrase. Now, I want to focus on the first part. I was like.
I was like.
I was like.
Now, you might hear a lot of native English speakers use these three words before they start telling you what they said. So it's like saying, I said or I told him.
Yep. So this actually is really common, especially with people under the age of 30. So why don't we hear a few more examples of how it's used now?
Example 1.
This guy caused a car accident, and I was like, you idiot! You can kill people by driving like that.
Example 2.
And then I was like, I hate you. And she was all like, I hate you more.
Example 3.
I told the teacher that I didn't finish my homework, and he was like, I'll see you after school.
So if you're telling a story or you're maybe talking to somebody and you want to explain what you said, you can say, I was like, hey, what are you doing? And she was like, what? So you can have an entire dialogue based with I was like, she was like, we were like.
Okay, so I was like, it's super, super useful. So now our next word. Now they saw their friend who got the bad mark in school, and the guy said, dude, get over it.
Get over it.
Get over it.
So if somebody tells you to get over it.
Stop worrying about it.
Okay. Or
stop thinking about it.
All right. So if somebody is sad because maybe his girlfriend broke up with him, you would say,
get over it.
Yeah, stop thinking about it. Let it go. It's in the past.
Yeah, and you commonly use this for when somebody is upset about a small thing, something they shouldn't worry about.
Get over it.
Yep. Now, why don't we go on to our final word? At the end of the dialogue, they said, I'm going to open a can of whoop-ass.
Okay, so to open a can of whoop-ass on somebody.
To open a can of whoop-ass.
So again, let's break this down before we explain it.
Okay, I think we have to take one step back here. To whoop someone's ass is to beat them up, right?
Right.
To punch them and hurt them.
Right, so to whoop somebody's ass. So if I open a can of whoop-ass, what does that mean?
It means you're going to beat them up.
So it's just a funny, very informal way of saying, like, in this can, I'm going to open it and I'm going to start hitting you or something like that.
Some sort of small man is going to jump out of the can and start hitting you.
Exactly. But it's never literal. It's not like you're actually going to beat somebody up. It's just kind of like
kind of a joke.
Yeah, it's an empty threat.
Yeah.
All right, so some really interesting words and phrases in this dialogue. I think we should listen to it for the last time, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about this great decade.
Hey, Four Eyes. What's up, man? How have you been?
Not bad. Just went to the mall and picked up some junk. Check out my new Adidas.
Those are dope. You are gonna be getting mad props from the gang, man. Anyways, have you seen Betty lately?
Dude, don't even go there. That girl started tripping because I went to the movies with Veronica the other day. I was like, look, you knew how I was before you got with me.
That's right. You are such a player, man. Dude, there's Mad Max. Let's go say hi.
Max, what's up? Are you okay? You look like you just saw a ghost.
I got an F in English class. My life is over.
Dude, get over it. You need to lay off the books for a while and have some fun. Come on, let's bounce.
Where are we going? Oh, crap. My dad is gonna go postal when he finds out about this.
I'm gonna open the can of whoop-ass on you if you don't come with me right now.
Okay. Jeez.
Well, Marco, in the dialogue, I heard one of the guys say, what's up? But he said it in a really strange way, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He said, what's up?
Okay, so what's up with that?
So in the 90s, it was popular instead of saying what's up, you would just kind of double the S and just say what's up. And then it became very famous with a TV commercial for a certain beer.
And actually, I remember this commercial during the Super Bowl. They had this big commercial where everyone was saying what's up in this really strange way, right?
It's still used today informally between friends. You'll go ahead, hey, what's up? And what's up?
Yeah, and
so you'll use it.
Yeah, so that commercial made it actually quite cool and famous to talk like that.
Actually, in Spanish Pod, they have a show called que pasa, which is like the translation of what's up.
Oh,
and
right.
they start each show with like saying que pasa, but it's exactly the same. So maybe it will become popular in Spanish.
Maybe, but I guess only.
Time will tell.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so really cool stuff. And as we heard, typical music from the 90s. And another interesting thing was the nicknames. Four Eyes, Mad Max, very popular among young kids.
So remember, if you have any questions about this language or anything else about this lesson, come to our website at englishpod.com.
Right, you can leave all your questions and comments there, and we hope to see you guys there.
So thanks for listening, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. Recognition, informal.
Mad props.
Slang way of saying I'm the best and more.
All that in a bag of chips.
Being agitated, upset.
Tripping.
Wearing gold or precious stones.
Bling bling.
Informal of saying let's go.
Bounce.
Something is cool, it's great.
The bomb.
To act violently or aggressively.
Go postal.
Expression used to say my mistake or I'm sorry.
My bad.
An informal way to introduce a piece of dialogue.
I was like.
That sounds good to me. I agree.
I'm down with that.
What's up?
What's up?
Let's try that faster. Slang way of saying I'm the best and more.
All that in a bag of chips.
Wearing gold or precious stones.
Bling bling.
To act violently or aggressively.
Go postal.
Informal of saying let's go.
Bounce.
What's up?
What's up?
Something is cool. It's great.
The bomb.
That sounds good to me. I agree.
I'm down with that.
An informal way to introduce a piece of dialogue.
I was like.
Recognition, informal.
Mad props.
Expression used to say my mistake or I'm sorry.
My bad.
Being agitated, upset.
Tripping.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Mad props. Mad props to Christopher for that burger he made. It was amazing. Mad props. You have to give mad props to the creator of this site. It looks great. Mad props. I got mad props for the speech I gave yesterday. Everyone was impressed. I was like. This guy caused a car accident, and I was like, you idiot. You can kill people by driving like that. I was like. And then I was like, I hate you. And she was all like, I hate you more. I was like. I told the teacher that I didn't finish my homework, and he was like, I'll see you after school. Bounce. Come on, let's bounce. I have to be home soon. Bounce. All right, guys, I have to bounce. I'll see you later. Bounce. I am getting a bit tired of this party. Let's bounce. Tripping. Leanne was tripping because I got dirt in her car. Tripping. Even though I apologized for calling her fat, Jeannie was tripping all night. Tripping. He sent me 43 text messages and called me about 20 times. That guy is tripping over me. Go postal. I was so angry at work with the new workload, I was afraid I'd go postal. Go postal. Don't tease Carl right now. He might go postal. Go postal. My ex-girlfriend went postal on me when I broke up with her.
Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to have a funny lesson.
That's right. So I think this lesson's going to be a little bit different than most of our lessons, right?
Right. Today we're going to be looking at jokes, which is a very important part of English-speaking culture.
Yeah, so we're going to teach you a few pretty hilarious jokes, but we're also going to teach you some language related to jokes, funny things, and that sort of stuff.
All right, so in order for us to understand a little bit better the jokes that we're going to be looking at, why don't we take a look at vocabulary preview?
Vocabulary preview.
2 of these words you'll hear in the dialogue, but 1 you won't, but you still need to know this word so you can understand the jokes.
All right, so the word that we're talking about is not really a word, it's a sound.
Yeah.
Moo.
Moo.
So moo is the sound that cows make.
That's right, M-O-O.
Right, they go moo.
Very nice, Marco.
I could do a good cow.
Yep. All right, so we all know now that that's what cows say.
Exactly, so it's going to be important for the joke. You'll see why.
Okay. Now, another word that you need to understand is a dam.
So a dam.
A dam.
A dam is like a big wall, right?
Well, it's a wall in water that stops the river from flowing.
Okay, so usually you build dams in rivers and then the water can pass or not.
Yeah, it's something that you use to generate electricity, right?
Very good. But there's another word that sounds exactly the same way, but it's just spelled a little differently.
That's right. And we might hear someone say, "Oh, damn."
And that's an interjection, which basically means,
"Oh, no."
Right.
That's terrible.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Damn. I can say, damn, I forgot my keys.
Mm-hmm. Damn, we're late for the movie.
Okay. So it's an interesting interjection, and we'll also see it in one of our jokes. And now let's move on to our last word.
Nostrils.
Okay, nostrils.
Nostrils.
So a nostril, or your nostrils.
The 2 holes in your nose.
Right. You breathe through your nostrils.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now that we've taken a look at these 3 words, why don't we listen to our comedian for the first time, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more. Hello everyone, and welcome to Open Mic Night. You're in for a real treat as we've got a lot of great comics here with us tonight. First up, we have a very funny man coming straight from the state of Montana, Robert Hicks.
Thank you, everyone. Well, what a lovely crowd. You know, there's nothing I love better than stand-up comedy. You know, I've been working on my routine for months now, and I've got some real zingers for you tonight. Let's start out with some short jokes. How about that? Where do you find a one-legged dog? Where you left it. Get it? Anyways, what do you call a sheep with no legs? A cloud. Ooh, tough crowd. All right, now you're gonna love this joke. It's hilarious. What do cows do for entertainment? They rent movies. Movies. Okay. We've got a few hecklers in the audience, but this one is good. What does a fish say when it runs into a wall? Damn! Okay, last one. Why do gorillas have big nostrils? 'Cause they got big fingers. They got big fingers. Thanks, everyone. That was my time.
Okay, so some pretty hilarious jokes, huh?
I don't think the crowd really enjoyed them all that much.
Okay, well, maybe I'm just a fan of really terrible jokes.
Well, they were pretty funny, but I guess the crowd just didn't appreciate his sense of humor.
But you know what? They did use quite a lot of really interesting language. So why don't we look at that now in Language Takeaway?
Language takeaway.
On Language Takeaway, we're going to be looking at 6 words today, so let's get started. The announcer welcomed everyone and said that it's open mic night.
Open mic night.
So an open mic night.
Okay, well, we know mic is short for microphone, right? Now, an open mic night is a chance where anyone can come up and talk into the microphone.
So you can come up and sing, or you can tell jokes, you can do anything, basically.
Yeah.
All right, open mic night.
So it's not for professionals, but for people who maybe want to be professionals.
Right, amateurs. So it was open mic night, and he said they had a lot of great comics there.
So comics.
A comic.
A comic.
So basically, a comic is a person that makes a living by making people laugh.
Yeah, someone who stands up on stage and tells jokes.
All right. Would you say a clown is kind of like a comic?
No, they're different.
They're different, right?
A comic doesn't wear a red nose and a crazy...
A costume.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, because I hate clowns.
We do know that about you.
All right. So a comic. And well, what comics do is they perform stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy.
Okay, so stand-up comedy is really exactly what its name suggests, right?
Right. You stand up in front of an audience and you tell jokes or you make them laugh.
Yeah, tell funny stories.
It's a very popular form of entertainment in the United States and the UK.
That's right. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the lesson. But why don't we move on to our next word, which is routine.
A routine.
So the guy says, I've been working on my routine.
So what does he mean by his routine?
Well, I guess a routine is like a series or a collection of jokes or maybe movements that you use in a performance.
All right, a routine.
So you can talk about a dance routine.
Or in this case, a comedy routine. So the series of jokes he's going to tell.
That's right, that he practices again and again and again.
All right, and in his routine, he said he's got a lot of zingers.
Zingers.
A zinger.
So what's a zinger?
Basically, a zinger is like a strong, maybe a little bit rude joke.
Yeah, but like a kind of a one-line joke, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the people that were in the crowd and they were booing him, they were like, boo. Those we call hecklers.
Exactly, and that's our last word, a heckler.
A heckler.
Hecklers.
So let's listen to some hecklers in action.
All right, well, I think that's pretty clear. Those are definitely hecklers.
Right, they're very annoying. So now that we've finished looking at all the words that are related to comedy and performances, let's take a look at the jokes now in Fluency Builder.
Fluency builder.
Okay, well, we're not really focusing on new phrases for you here, but we thought it would be helpful to talk a little bit about the jokes to help you understand them, right? Because they are, well, I think pretty funny.
Yeah, they're pretty funny, but maybe sometimes they're kind of hard to understand. So why don't we start with the first joke? So he said, where do you find a one-legged dog?
So what's a one-legged dog?
Basically, it's a dog that has one leg.
Ah, okay. And the pronunciation here is important, right?
One-legged.
Not one-legged.
No.
One-legged.
So you can say a one-legged dog, a two-legged dog, or a three-legged dog.
Six-legged dog?
A six-legged spider maybe lost two legs in a war.
Oh, dear. Okay, so the dog obviously didn't go anywhere, and so that's why you find it where you left it.
Exactly. So that's why it's kind of funny.
Okay.
All right. So then he said, what do you call a sheep with no legs?
I don't know.
A cloud. Basically because, sheep are fluffy and they're white. So if you take away their legs, they look like a little cloud.
Boo.
All right. Let's look at the next one. He asked, what do cows do for entertainment?
And then the answer was, they rent movies.
Exactly. So it's kind of funny because he's relating this word movies with the sound that cows make, which is moo.
Right. And actually, there are a million jokes in English following the same pattern, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure you can find a lot more of them and you can share them with us.
Now, my personal favorite joke is the guy says, what does a fish say when it runs into a wall?
So to run into a wall basically is to crash against the wall.
Yep.
So what does the fish say?
Damn.
So why is this funny? Why does he say damn?
Well, because if you're a person and you run into a wall, damn, like that, just like, oh
Ouch.
no,
Yeah,
ow,
ouch.
yeah. But a fish is swimming under the water, and like we saw, a dam is actually like a wall in the water.
So he's saying like, a wall.
Yeah. So it's that, I like that one.
All right. The last one was pretty good. Why do gorillas have big nostrils?
Okay, so the big holes in their nose.
Right. And basically it's because they have big fingers.
So they can put their fingers in the nose?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dear.
If the gorilla didn't have big nostrils, he wouldn't be able to pick his nose.
Maybe he'd have to use a stick.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be convenient, see?
All right.
So that's why those jokes are funny. They're very short jokes. Some of them are not actually really funny, but it's just a little bit of a taste of short American jokes.
Okay, well, I think we need to hear them one more time in context so you can all know how funny, or maybe not so funny, they are.
Hello everyone and welcome to Open Mic Night. You're in for a real treat as we've got a lot of great comics here with us tonight. First up, we have a very funny man coming straight from the state of Montana, Robert Hicks.
Thank you, everyone. Well, what a lovely crowd. There's nothing I love better than stand-up comedy. I've been working on my routine for months now, and I've got some real zingers for you tonight. Let's start out with some short jokes. How about that? Where do you find a one-legged dog? Where you left it. Get it? Anyways, what do you call a sheep with no legs? A cloud. Ooh, tough crowd. All right, now you're gonna love this joke. It's hilarious. What do cows do for entertainment? They rent movies. Movies. Okay. We've got a few hecklers in the audience, but this one is good. What does a fish say when it runs into a wall? Damn! Okay, last one. Why do gorillas have big nostrils? 'Cause they got big fingers. They got big fingers. Thanks, everyone. That was my time.
Now, if you have any good jokes of your own, why don't you come to our website and tell us about them?
Right, come to englishpod.com. Share with us any jokes. Of course, they have to be clean. Don't come
No swears.
No swearing in the jokes.
Yep.
All right, so we'll see you guys there, and until next time.
Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. When a club or restaurant allows for anyone to sing or perform.
Open mic night.
A reply to an insult, a witty retort.
Comeback.
When someone performs comedy while standing on a stage.
Stand-up comedy.
Insulting or in some other way defaming someone or something.
Diss.
A series of things such as movements or jokes.
Routine.
To play a joke or prank someone.
Punk.
A quick and clever comment that criticizes.
Zinger.
Make fun of or laugh at someone.
Mock.
Someone who interrupts, someone such as a speaker.
Heckler.
In an unrestrained manner, spontaneously.
Ad lib.
Let's try that faster. When a club or restaurant allows for anyone to sing or perform.
Open mic night.
To play a joke or prank someone.
Punk.
Make fun of or laugh at someone.
Mock.
When someone performs comedy while standing on a stage.
Stand-up comedy.
In an unrestrained manner, spontaneously.
Ad lib.
A series of things such as movements or jokes.
Routine.
Insulting or in some other way defaming someone or something.
Diss.
A reply to an insult, a witty retort.
Comeback.
Someone who interrupts, someone such as a speaker.
Heckler.
A quick and clever comment that criticizes.
Zinger.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Open mic night. Tonight there's an open mic night at the local comedy club. Want to go? Open mic night. This is the last time I go to an open mic night. The performers were horrible. Open mic night. Tom wants to go to the open mic night tonight since his friend is going to perform. Stand-up comedy. Many famous comedians and actors started by doing stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy. I love watching stand-up comedy. All those jokes and funny stories put me in a good mood. Stand-up comedy. Did you hear? The bar down the street is going to have stand-up comedy tonight. Let's go. Routine. Carl has an amazing magic trick routine that he always performs at parties. Routine. Madonna's dance routine is perfect. She's such a good dancer. Routine. A good performer should have a solid routine when they get on stage. Zinger. Max is such a funny guy. He always greets me with a new zinger. Zinger. I like to come up with witty zingers from time to time. Zinger. That comedian made me laugh so hard. He had so many funny zingers. Heckler. The crowd was full of hecklers and really gave the performer a hard time. Heckler. That meeting was horrible. Everyone was acting like a group of hecklers. Heckler. There was a heckler today at the press conference who really gave the president a hard time by being loud and obnoxious.
Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine, and today we're talking about being clean.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the laundry, right?
It's a very important part of everyone's weekly schedule.
And not only important, but I find it to be a little bit difficult because, like washing machine and what clothes you should mix with what, and, how much detergent and how long. It's such a complicated process.
Well, let's say this. It might not be difficult, but it's very easy to mess up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the problem. It's very easy to just ruin your favorite t-shirt if you don't do laundry correctly.
Or all of your white socks turn pink, for example.
Right. So we're going to be looking at a lot of vocabulary and phrases related to this topic. And before we get started with the dialogue, why don't we take a look at vocabulary preview?
Vocabulary preview.
Okay, so central to all of these phrases and words that we're going to be hearing is a thing, an electric thing that helps us wash our clothes.
Right, a washing machine.
All right, pretty simple, right? So washing is to wash, washing, and machine. So they go together, washing machine.
Right.
Pretty simple.
So it's easy now. You just put all your clothes in this thing and it washes it for you.
Vroom, vroom,
Now, a lot of people don't like to use washing machines. They say it doesn't really clean the clothes as well as doing it by hand.
Really? Well, I'd say most clothes get washed pretty well with a washing machine. But if you have those hard to get stains or some dirt, maybe it's good to have a washing board.
A washing board, yeah.
Yeah, where you can really scrub it yourself.
And, funny you mentioned that word stain because it's our second word that we're going to preview, a stain.
All right, a stain is some color, maybe some food or wine or grass that you can't remove from your clothes.
Right. So it's very common. You're having a nice dinner and all of a sudden you spill wine on your shirt. So you have a wine stain.
I hate that. And you can also have a stain on your carpet, right? So if you spill some coffee on your carpet, it's got a little circle that's brown forever.
Right? Or even some people have stained the teeth, right?
That's right. So you can get them turned back white with a little money to your dentist.
Exactly. So those are the two words that we're going to be looking at today in vocabulary preview. So let's listen to our dialogue. Let's see what's happening with these people that are doing laundry.
Okay, let's go through this one more time. I don't want any more ruined or dyed blouses.
I know. Okay, so I had to separate the colors from the whites and put them in this strange-looking contraption so-called washing machine.
Right. You have to turn it on and program it depending on what type of clothes you're washing. For example, for delicates, you should set a shorter washing cycle. Also, be sure to use fabric softener and this detergent when washing.
So complicated. Okay, what about this red wine stain? How do I get it out?
Since this is a white t-shirt, you can just pour a little bit of bleach on it and it will do the trick.
Cool. Then I can just throw everything in the dryer for an hour and it's all set, right?
No! Since you're washing delicates and cotton, you should set the dryer to medium heat and for 20 minutes.
You know what? I'll just have everything dry cleaned.
Okay, so we've got someone who is maybe doing the laundry for the first time, and he's not really understanding the instructions he's got.
Well, that's the thing, I tell you. It's a little bit difficult, and, it's very tedious at times to try and do laundry like this.
Well, the first thing that's maybe tedious about it is that you have to really worry about what colors go together.
Right, so let's take a look at those words that were related to doing laundry now in Language Takeaway.
Language takeaway.
Okay, the first word we have is actually related to a joke we made earlier about pink socks. So if you change the color of something, you're dyeing it.
Okay. Die. So it's pronounced exactly the same way as, to die, to not live anymore. Die. But it's spelled differently.
D-Y-E.
Okay. So it can be a verb or an adjective.
Or a noun.
Or a noun.
So something that you put on clothes to change the color is called a dye.
A dye.
But to do this, to change the color of some clothes is to dye the clothes.
So that's maybe what happens when you wash a red t-shirt with all your white t-shirts.
Then you have dyed shirts. You have pink shirts and... ugh.
And also women, when they go to the beauty salon, they dye their hair.
Exactly. So that means you change the color of your hair. It means it's a long-term change. It's not short. It's not like one day.
Right.
It means probably for a long time.
So that's the correct word, to dye. Very different. Maybe some people say to paint, which, we understand, but the correct form would be to dye.
And next we have a word that describes a certain kind of clothing. We're not talking about pants or socks. We're talking about delicates.
Delicates. So now this adjective, delicate, which means it's very
Easy to break.
fragile, right?
Yeah.
But this is a noun, delicates.
Right. So you think of something that's easy to break or to ruin, maybe you think of underwear.
Underwear.
Underwear is something you wear under your clothing, and so it's generally not as strong as a shirt or a pair of jeans. And so we call these in English delicates.
Very good. So you have to be careful when you're washing your delicates because it's happened to me before. You put them in with all the clothes and then you have stretched out boxers or something like that.
Yeah, so that's why many women I know wash delicates by hand. So you separate the clothes from the delicates.
Very good. And now if you're washing delicates or you're washing towels or t-shirts, it's always a good idea to use fabric softener.
All right, fabric softener. What are these two words? One of them you understand already. Maybe it's soft softener.
So it makes it soft.
Yeah, something that makes something softer. We've got fabric softeners. That's something that makes the clothes that you wash softer.
So fabric is any type of material, right? Like a textile.
Yeah. So it could be cotton or silk
Or nylon.
linen. So these are all kinds of fabrics.
So you pour a little bit of this in your washing machine and your clothes come out really nice and soft.
It feels nice just talking about it.
All right. And well, also to wash your clothes, to actually make them clean, you use detergent.
Right. So many people might want to say the word soap because soap is what we use to wash our hands and our dishes. But here we have detergent. So this is a special soap for your clothes.
Right. Laundry detergent.
Yeah, you could just say laundry. You could say laundry detergent or simply detergent.
And now in order to remove those nasty stains that maybe are very hard, you would use a chemical called bleach.
All right. So bleach is the dangerous chemical because it smells very strong.
Right.
And it can change the color of your clothes to white or yellow. So we usually only use bleach with white clothes.
I actually had a friend who changed the color of his hair to white using bleach. He put bleach on his head and on his hair and it just turned white.
Oh, wow. So many people do that because they want to go from dark colors to light colors.
And in that case, you could say that he dyed his hair white, but usually you would say he bleached his hair.
It's so we understand that it turned white.
Exactly. So those 5 words we just looked at in language takeaway, they're important. They're related to doing laundry. So before we move on, let's listen to our dialogue again, but a little bit slower.
Okay, let's go through this one more time. I don't want any more ruined or dyed blouses.
I know. Okay, so I have to separate the colors from the whites and put them in this strange-looking contraption so-called washing machine?
Right. You have to turn it on and program it depending on what type of clothes you are washing. For example, for delicates, you should set a shorter washing cycle. Also, be sure to use fabric softener and this detergent when washing.
So complicated. Okay, what about this red wine stain? How do I get it out?
Since this is a white t-shirt, you can just pour a little bit of bleach on it and it will do the trick.
Cool. Then I can just throw everything in the dryer for an hour and it's all set, right?
No. Since you are washing delicates and cotton, you should set the dryer to medium heat and for 20 minutes.
You know what? I'll just have everything dry cleaned.
So here at English Pod, we like to also provide you listeners with some phrases that allow you to increase your fluency. So that means sound more like a native English speaker. And so today, let's check out these phrases in Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
All right, so on Fluency Builder, we're going to be looking at 4 words or 4 phrases. So the first one was really easy. When she was telling the guy or instructing him how to do the laundry, she said, "Let's go through this one more time."
Go through what? The wall?
No, so it's not actually to go through an object, like to pass. So it's let's repeat or let's rehearse again.
Okay, so normally we say this when there are many different steps to do something. So let's go through this again. When you leave work, you go home, you unlock the door, you open the door, and then it means that there's a process.
Right.
You know, there are many steps, and so let's go through this again is a way for us to say let's think about and discuss this process.
Very good. So we also use it maybe when we're studying. So let's go through this subject one more time.
Can we go through chapter 5 again? I didn't understand it.
Exactly. So you would reread chapter 5. All right. So why don't we listen to a couple of more examples of how we could use go through?
Example 1.
I want to go through chapter 5 again before the exam tomorrow.
Example 2.
David, do you have time this afternoon to go over the details of this new project?
Example 3.
I went through my contract, and it says that I am entitled to 15 vacation days a year.
Now, this next phrase is very common when we're using sarcasm, when we're trying to make jokes. So we say so-called.
Right. So she said this so-called contraption.
It's like she doubts that it's really a washing machine. So I could say, her so-called boyfriend wants to go out tonight. So I say that because he doesn't really act like a boyfriend. Right?
So you're being sarcastic. It's a very good way, an easy way of demonstrating sarcasm.
Yeah, and actually in the 1990s in America, there was a very famous TV show called My So-Called Life. And right, so this is my so-called life. It's almost like, it's not really like I have any control over it. So.
Yeah, or I don't really have a life because it's kind of boring.
Yeah, so my so-called life, not
Right.
bragging. It's
So
a joke.
So you can say my so-called friends, my so-called job. Basically, you can almost be sarcastic with anything.
Yeah, but be careful that you know that it's a joke, because if you're trying to be serious, you might make some people angry.
Right. And now, well, she was explaining the whole process of how to do it. And when she recommended using bleach, she said that should do the trick.
Trick. So dogs do tricks, right?
Right, but to do the trick, right? What
So it's
what
got
is
a
she
different
saying?
meaning. All right, so she's saying this should work. This should fix your problem.
So that should do the trick.
So Marco, I've been having this itch on my foot, and I just can't seem to figure out what to do with it. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, you should maybe just put some ointment on it, and that should do the trick.
All right, cool. Thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah, so very easy. It's just a way of saying that should solve your problem.
All right, great. So that should do the trick, or it will do the trick.
And, well, we have one last phrase, all set.
All set. So this is another phrase that has 2 words that always go together to mean, well, we're finished. We're done.
Everything is ready.
Everything is ready.
We're all set to go on vacation. So my bags are packed. I have my passports. We are all set.
Or after a meeting, you can say, are we all set here? That means, are we finished? Is it time to leave?
Very good. So we are almost all set. Let's listen to this dialogue one last time.
Okay, let's go through this one more time. I don't want any more ruined or dyed blouses.
I know. Okay, so I had to separate the colors from the whites and put them in this strange-looking contraption so-called washing machine.
Right. You have to turn it on and program it depending on what type of clothes you're washing. For example, for delicates, you should set a shorter washing cycle. Also, be sure to use fabric softener and this detergent when washing.
So complicated. Okay, what about this red wine stain? How do I get it out?
Since this is a white t-shirt, you can just pour a little bit of bleach on it and it will do the trick.
Cool. Then I can just throw everything in the dryer for an hour and it's all set, right?
No! Since you're washing delicates and cotton, you should set the dryer to medium heat and for 20 minutes.
You know what? I'll just have everything dry cleaned.
Have you ever had any laundry mishaps? Have you ever lost a sock, dyed something?
Have I ever? I hate doing the laundry.
Why?
It's time consuming. It takes a lot of time and I have no patience. And so normally when I was in college, I would take all of my laundry in a bag and I'd throw it in the washing machine and I'd put it on cold, because cold water, it's okay for all colors, but hot water makes the colors bleed. I took out the clothes and put them in the dryer. And afterwards, I saw all my clothes were clean except for my 3 sweaters, which were small enough for babies.
Oh, you shrunk it.
Yeah, I shrunk 3 brand new sweaters.
Oh, that's too bad. The problem that I have when doing laundry is that I forget that I started doing laundry. So all of a sudden, I'm doing laundry in the morning and then the clothes are washed, but they're still in the washing machine. And I remember the next day. So then the clothes are kind of smelling kind of humid.
Because they're moldy.
Yeah. It's, so I have to rewash them and it's just a pain. Yeah, but doing laundry is sometimes so time consuming, but let us know what you think. Do you like doing laundry or have you ever lost a sock? I think everyone has lost a sock or something in their washing, right? I don't know what happens.
There's a secret home for socks somewhere.
It's so weird.
Maybe it's in Australia or something.
So come to our website, englishpod.com. Give us all your feedback, question, comments, or suggestions, and we're always there.
All right, hope to hear from you soon, and until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. To change the color of something such as hair or clothing.
Dye.
Place with washing machines and dryers, usually coin-operated and self-service.
Laundromat.
A machine.
Contraption.
To press and smooth clothes with a heated iron.
Iron.
To accomplish the desired task.
Do the trick.
To stiffen clothes with a chemical compound.
Starch.
Ready, prepared.
All set.
A cord, rope, or wire on which clothes may be hung to dry or air.
Clothesline.
A way to clean clothes without water.
Dry clean.
Basket or space where dirty clothes are put.
Clothes hamper.
Let's try that faster. A way to clean clothes without water.
Dry clean.
A cord, rope, or wire on which clothes may be hung to dry or air.
Clothesline.
To change the color of something such as hair or clothing.
Dye.
Basket or space where dirty clothes are put.
Clothes hamper.
A machine.
Contraption.
To press and smooth clothes with a heated iron.
Iron.
Ready, prepared.
All set.
To accomplish the desired task.
Do the trick.
Place with washing machines and dryers, usually coin-operated and self-service.
Laundromat.
To stiffen clothes with a chemical compound.
Starch.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Dye. Nicole goes to the beauty salon every 3 months to get her hair dyed. Dye. My friend likes to dye her t-shirts different colors. They look really nice. Dye. Why did you dye your hair green? Contraption. He tried to fly over the Atlantic in a homemade contraption. Contraption. What does this contraption do? Contraption. Leonardo da Vinci was a great inventor that designed many different contraptions. Do the trick. If we use a piece of cork, it might stop the leaking and do the trick. Do the trick. The soup was too salty, so I added some potatoes, which did the trick. Do the trick. If the sauce tastes a bit sour, add a teaspoon of sugar. That should do the trick. All set. All set. I finished doing all the laundry. All set. We have our luggage and passport, so we are all set to go to the airport. All set. The preparations for the wedding are all set. Dry clean. If you want to remove that stain, you need to have that dry cleaned. Dry clean. I try and avoid having my clothes dry cleaned. It's too expensive. Dry clean. I took my favorite leather jacket to the dry cleaners and they lost it.
Hello, English learners. Welcome back to another great lesson here at English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine. So, Marco, today we've got a little bit of an unusual lesson because we're talking about hypothetical situations.
Right. We're talking about a unreal situation or something that may happen or may not happen.
Okay, so you're going to hear all about this in today's dialogue. We're going to hear it a couple of times. When we come back, we'll be breaking it down for you so you know all about these great phrases and how to talk about not real situations with your friends.
Okay, next question. If Eric asked you out on a date, what would you say?
Duh, I would say yes. Eric is the most popular kid in school. Okay, my turn. What would you do if you won the lottery?
Let's see. If I won the lottery, I would buy 2 tickets for a trip around the world.
If you buy me a ticket, I'll go with you for sure.
My dad would freak out if I even mention a trip like that.
All right, this is a good one. What would your mom say if you told her that you're going to get married?
If I told her that, she would faint and have me committed.
All right, so I think that was clear and, well, a very common situation. 2 teenage girls talking to each other about, boys and what would you do and da-da-da.
Guys do this too, so don't just put this on the girls, okay?
I don't think we do it like this, though.
No, but it's actually a very popular game in the car to play, the what if game.
The what if game,
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's exactly the topic that we want to talk about today is the structure what if, which is actually called a conditional.
All right, so conditional because the result, the thing that happens, depends on something else.
Exactly.
So let's actually take a look at the words in today's language takeaway before we talk about all this grammar stuff.
Language takeaway.
Okay, so we'll start out with some basic words. They were talking about guys, and she said if Eric asked you out. Right? So to ask somebody out.
Okay, so this might be a little bit strange because you think, okay, to ask is to ask a question. But to ask out, it's a fixed phrase. It's something you say. These two words go together, right? So I want to ask someone out. It means I want to invite someone on a date.
On a romantic date, usually.
So yeah, I want to ask him out to dinner, or he asked me out to the movies.
Now, if I didn't want to ask somebody out on a romantic date, what verb would you use?
I'd say you could invite someone out, but then again, it's always a little bit, you can say invite for someone if you're going to ask them on a date too. So
Yeah.
I'd say to ask out is always romantic, and to invite can be romantic or just friends.
Okay, so to ask somebody out. Now, they were talking about other situations. Maybe they would go on a trip or something. And she said, my dad would freak out.
This is a great phrase, and this is something that I used a lot when I was a teenager.
The word freak out?
Freak out. So the verb to freak out means to be really angry or upset, or, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. But usually when we're talking about our parents, it's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing. So they get angry. They start yelling at you.
Yeah, so
freak
out means like overreact.
All right. And the last word that we have on language takeaway today is committed.
Well, let's look at the whole phrase. He says, she would have me committed. So this is actually being done to someone.
Now, we did look at this word before, but basically for marriage, right? To commit to somebody, to promise.
Yeah, but to have someone committed means that you're going to send them away to maybe a mental institution.
Exactly.
So this means they have psychological problems, and someone else sends them to the hospital because they can't send themselves.
Exactly. So it's always used to have someone committed, right?
Right, because it's being done to them. They don't want it to happen. It's involuntary.
Okay. So she had him committed.
My mom's going to have me committed if I keep working 20 hours a day.
Exactly. So that's the way you use it. And so now you have another way of using this verb. But now I think we should listen to this dialogue again. We're going to slow it down a little bit, and then we'll come back and look at this grammar focus that we want to talk about.
Okay, next question. If Eric asked you out on a date, what would you say?
Duh, I would say yes. Eric is the most popular kid in school. Okay, my turn. What would you do if you won the lottery?
Let's see. If I won the lottery, I would buy 2 tickets for a trip around the world.
If you buy me a ticket, I will go with you for sure.
My dad would freak out if I even mention a trip like that.
All right, this is a good one. What would your mom say if you told her you were going to get married?
If I told her that, she would faint and have me committed.
All right, so we understood all the vocab now. Now let's take a look at these unreal situations and what we were saying, the what if game.
Right, so I think it's important to push these into 2 different categories, right? We have one kind where it's very unrealistic. It's probably not going to happen, that kind of situation. And the other one is a situation that could very well happen, something that's probably very common. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is very unrealistic situations, things that probably won't happen.
Okay, so let's take a look at an example that we found in the dialogue. The most common one, and I think everybody gets asked this question, is if you won the lottery, what would you do?
Okay, if you won the lottery. So this is a situation that's very uncommon, right? Not many people win the lottery. So we have to say, if you won the lottery. So we use this verb in the past tense. If you won the lottery, if this happened, what would you do?
Right.
All
so,
right.
Catherine, if you won the lottery, what would you do?
If I won the lottery, I would buy a boat and sail around the world with my friends.
All right. So another example, again, using the same structure, right? The verb in the simple past tense, we would say, if you were stuck on an island with one other person, who would that be?
All right. So if you were stuck on a desert island, with one person, who would that person be? So, Marco, I'm going to ask you, who would it be?
I think it would be an engineer or a scientist that could probably get me off the island.
What about your girlfriend?
No, well, that's the point. If I can get to her quicker.
Oh, okay. I would say maybe kind of romantic, but kind of not. So that's the first situation. We've got these situations like being stuck on an island, winning the lottery. These are very unlikely. But what about the other kind?
But before we move on to that, you notice that we used the verb was. We didn't say if I was on an island. I said if I were, right? Mm-hmm. Or if you were. Mm-hmm. So this is the way that you use it in these conditionals. If I were you, or if you were president of the United States.
Yeah, this is a rule. So this is a grammar rule. We're not going to describe why it happens because it's very, very complicated and you can look it up on our site, but we're going to describe how to use it. That's the most important. So we can say, for example, Marco, if I were you, I would dye my hair red.
Why?
I don't know. I think it would look cool.
I don't think so.
So if I were you, I would. Or if you were me, what would you do?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So we always use it like this, right? If you're going to use this conditional, always use were for the subject, never was.
Right. So you can tell. This is a very, very big grammar issue. A lot of English speakers make this mistake.
Yes, very many. So, but now you know that you shouldn't make this mistake and you can speak properly. All right. So now that we've seen these semi-unreal situations, let's move on to something that's a little bit more probable that it may happen.
Right, so we've got these situations that are common or likely. For example, in this lesson we hear, I will go with you for sure. So this is, if you buy me a ticket to travel, of course I will go with you. Mm-hmm. So if you buy, this is in the present tense. If you buy, then I will.
Right.
Right.
So now you notice the difference. The verb is in the present, and then we use, instead of would, we use will. So again, I can say, if it rains tomorrow, I will stay home and watch TV all day.
Okay, so think about this. Before we talked about going to desert islands. Now we're talking about rain and the weather. They're very, very different. The rain is very common. So we can say, if it rains tomorrow, I will need an umbrella. Mm-hmm. What about this? If we have lunch tomorrow, what will we eat?
Okay, so we have lunch pretty much every day, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So again, it's a situation that is very probable. So if we have lunch tomorrow, we will probably eat, I don't know, pasta. I think I'm feeling like pasta tomorrow.
Pasta?
Yeah.
Some noodles?
Yeah.
All right, so Marco, let's take another listen to some of these phrases and try and figure out, while you're listening, which kind of conditional it is, first or the second.
Example 1.
If it's sunny today, we will go to the park.
Example 2.
I would get a divorce if I were you.
Example 3.
Mary will be very sad if Joe leaves.
Example 4.
We wouldn't be so late if Nick drove faster.
Very good. So we heard different examples, and the first conditional is the one that we mentioned is very probable, and the second conditional is the one that's not so probable. So they're very easy to distinguish. You don't really need to know the names, just know how to use them, right?
Exactly. And so just remember, if you were me, what would you do? We've got these kind of pairs, these words that go together. Mm-hmm. And the other one is more common. It's if it rains tomorrow, I will bring an umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So why don't we listen to this dialogue for the last time, just to kind of reinforce everything, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more.
Okay, next question. If Eric asked you out on a date, what would you say?
Duh. I would say yes. Eric is the most popular kid in school. Okay, my turn. What would you do if you won the lottery?
Let's see. If I won the lottery, I would buy 2 tickets for a trip around the world.
If you buy me a ticket, I'll go with you for sure.
My dad would freak out if I even mention a trip like that.
All right, this is a good one. What would your mom say if you told her that you're going to get married?
If I told her that, she would faint and have me committed.
So, Marco, if we talk any more about grammar, someone's going to have me committed.
It is a little bit difficult to talk about grammar, especially on a podcast, because it's such a difficult topic and it's also kind of heavy, right?
It is, but I'll tell you this. These are very, very common phrases. People use these all the time. We talk in hypotheticals very often.
Yeah.
So if you're asking for advice, for example, or if you're just playing a game in the car, you're going to encounter these, and it's very important to be able to know how to use them.
Mm-hmm. So, and this is what we want to see now. Please come to our website at englishpod.com, and you have a million questions. You have a million hypotheticals that you can leave on our website. So let us know. Ask us the craziest, funniest, weirdest questions that you can, right?
Exactly. And if you have questions about the stuff that we've been talking about, you're not really clear on some things, just ask us, because we're happy to answer your questions and give more examples on the website.
All right. So we'll see you guys there. And until next time.
Bye, everyone.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. To be in the place of someone.
Be in your shoes.
To lose one's nerve, become suddenly anxious.
Freak out.
An instance of spending the night as a guest at another's home.
Sleepover.
To request a date.
Ask someone out.
Suppositional, uncertain.
Hypothetical.
Put in a mental hospital.
Commit.
Rumor or talk of a personal, sensational, or intimate nature.
Gossip.
To join in marriage.
Get married.
To have dreamlike musings or fantasies while awake.
Daydream.
A romantic meeting.
Date.
Let's try that faster. Suppositional, uncertain.
Hypothetical.
To join in marriage.
Get married.
Rumor or talk of a personal, sensational, or intimate nature.
Gossip.
To have dreamlike musings or fantasies while awake.
Daydream.
To be in the place of someone.
Be in your shoes.
Put in a mental hospital.
Commit.
A romantic meeting.
Date.
An instance of spending the night as a guest at another's home.
Sleepover.
To request a date.
Ask someone out.
To lose one's nerve, become suddenly anxious.
Freak out.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Ask someone out. When asking someone out, choose your moment carefully and practice what you might say in advance so that you don't appear tongue-tied. Ask someone out. I heard you asked your new neighbor out on a date. Ask someone out. I really want to ask Jeff out, but what if he says no? Freak out. Oh my gosh. I'm going to meet Justin Timberlake. I'm totally freaking out. Freak out. Why did you freak out when I told you I'd be late for dinner? Freak out. Don't freak out. We can solve this problem in 5 minutes. Commit. The judge had him committed to a mental institution. Commit. If you get committed to an asylum, can you eventually get out? Commit. He was committed to 50 hours of community service for his crimes. If I won $1 million, I would buy you a diamond ring. We wouldn't be so late if Nick drove faster. I would get a divorce if I were you. If it's sunny today, we will go to the park. If you study hard, you will pass the test. Mary will be very sad if Joe leaves.
Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine, and today we've got a very, very useful lesson for all of you out there.
That's right. We're bringing you part 2 of the What If series, which is a small series.
Small, and it is kind of grammar focused, but it's very, very important because you often want to talk about things that don't happen. We're calling these hypotheticals or conditional statements.
Right. So there are many different types of hypotheticals or conditional statements. So today we're going to be looking at the third conditional, which is probably the hardest one because it uses a little bit of a complex grammar structure.
It's complex, and we're actually talking about things that did not happen and that will not happen, right?
It's impossible to change.
It's impossible to change these because there are things that would have happened in the past but didn't.
Wow, that sounds confusing. Why don't we listen to the dialogue for the first time, and then we'll be back to look at some phrases first.
This is the good life. We have it good, don't you think?
Yeah, of course. Although, don't you ever wonder what could have been?
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes I think of how things could have turned out if I had done things a little differently.
For example?
Like, for example, if I hadn't studied architecture, I would have become an artist like I wanted to.
I see. Yeah, now that I think of it, I wouldn't have gotten married if I hadn't moved to this town and met Sally.
You see, everything happens for a reason. We wouldn't even have met if I hadn't been in that car accident 10 years ago.
Well, I have no regrets.
I'll drink to that.
All right, so two guys, talking about life.
I imagine these guys as being, middle age or a little bit older, sitting on a porch, drinking a beer, talking about what could have been.
Yeah, exactly. They're kind of thinking about the past and
the decisions they have made.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so before we start in the grammar, why don't we take a look at a couple of different phrases on Fluency Builder?
Fluency Builder.
Well, Marco, this first phrase is a phrase you'll hear very often in English. It's a phrase that even has philosophical roots, something we talked a lot about when we were studying Socrates back in school, but this is the good life.
The good life. We have the good life, or I
Right.
have a good life.
I have a good life is a very common phrase, but here the good life is an idiom. So I'm living the good life. Means, I have no complaints about my life.
Right, so pretty much you have all your necessities covered.
And maybe you have a nice family and you have a good job and you're just happy. So this is the good life.
Very good. So you have the good life. Now, moving on to another phrase that's kind of also philosophical, it says everything happens for a reason.
All right. So this phrase is, it's also pretty common. People say this when bad things happen, but they
Right.
also say this when good things happen.
Yeah. So basically, you're just saying that it's destiny. If this bad thing happened to you, there is a reason for it. Maybe you don't see it now, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe later you'll see why.
This often happens when people lose their jobs. You say, everything happens for a reason. Maybe losing this job will allow you to find a better job.
Or maybe go back to school and study.
Or maybe meet the man or woman of your dreams.
Right, so everything happens for a reason. Very good. And then the guy agrees and says, well, I'll drink to that.
Okay, so this is a way for people speaking English to say, listen, I agree with you. I like that idea. And I will cheers.
Cheers, right.
Right? So this means we're going to touch our glasses or touch our beer bottles and we're going to, think about how this is it's a nice thought, Everything happens for a reason is positive. It's a way to say, listen, good things can happen from this.
Right.
So he's saying, yes, I agree. Cheers.
I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that.
All right. Well, pretty interesting phrases. They're very common, I guess, like colloquial, right? So you can use them in everyday conversation with a friend.
You can. And, oftentimes we say, for example, something really positive like, I'm really glad I have such great friends. And then everyone says, oh, I'll drink to that. Right. And so this is something you'll hear when you're out with friends or with family. And they may sound funny at first, but you will recognize them when you're speaking to people who speak English.
All right. So let's listen to our dialogue again, and then we'll come back and explain the grammar.
This is the good life. We have it good, don't you think?
Yeah, of course. Although, don't you ever wonder what could have been?
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes I think of how things could have turned out if I had done things a little differently.
For example?
Like, for example, if I hadn't studied architecture, I would have become an artist like I wanted to.
I see. Yeah, now that I think of it, I wouldn't have gotten married if I hadn't moved to this town and met Sally.
You see, everything happens for a reason. We wouldn't even have met if I hadn't been in that car accident 10 years ago.
Well, I have no regrets.
I'll drink to that.
Beep, beep, beep.
All right. So now it's time for grammar breakdown.
Grammar breakdown.
So in grammar breakdown, we're going to look at the two main parts of these phrases that allow us to talk about things that didn't happen. So we're talking about looking back at our life and seeing what decisions and what actions we made. And in this case, we have a great sentence here. If I hadn't studied architecture, I would have become an artist.
All right. So let's look at the first part before the comma. If I hadn't studied architecture. So now we have the conditional if.
So Marco, big question. Did he study architecture?
He did.
He did. So if I hadn't studied architecture, it means I did study architecture. But if I had not studied it, okay, so this is if I could change the past, then what would I have done?
I would have become an artist.
Okay, so he wanted to be an artist, but he didn't become an artist. He studied architecture instead.
Right.
Okay,
Very
so
good.
You can see the two parts here. We have one, the condition, if I hadn't done this thing. And then afterwards, we have the result. Then I would have become an artist. So this is the hypothetical.
Very good. And when we see the condition, you see the the structure of the sentence is had plus verb in past participle. So if I hadn't studied architecture, and this is called the past perfect, right? And then the result, as you said, would have become, this is the present perfect, have or has plus verb in past participle. Let's look at another example. I wouldn't have gotten married if I hadn't moved to this town.
Okay, so we've got the same idea here, but we've got it flipped. We've got these two parts in different places. And so he's pretty much saying, if I hadn't moved to this town, then I wouldn't have gotten married. But what did happen? He did move to this town, and he did get married.
Exactly. So then, yeah, like you say, he changed the condition, and you can do this. You can put the condition in the beginning or at the end. And again, the structure is the same. I would have gotten married, right? Have gotten, this is present perfect, have or has, depending on the subject, plus the verb in past participle. And then the past perfect or the condition, had, plus verb in past participle, hadn't moved to this town. All right?
That's a lot of grammar.
It's a lot of grammar, but it's very easy once you just start using it. Don't think too much about, okay, what do I do here? Just, if you get the rhythm and you start using it in the same way, then it kind of comes out naturally. And if you make a little mistake, there's not a big deal because even we do it,
Exactly. Well, let's try a couple of examples off the top of our heads. First of all, if I hadn't moved to China, I wouldn't have learned Chinese.
Very good. So you did move to China and you did learn Chinese.
Exactly. So your turn.
All right. If my parents hadn't spoken Spanish to me when I was a kid, I wouldn't have become fluent in Spanish.
Okay, so your parents did speak Spanish to you, and you did become fluent in Spanish,
yes.
So not bad.
Right. As you can see, you can use it not only to think about things in the past that you can't change anymore, but just also, kind of remember or say, if this hadn't happened, the result.
Or if I hadn't opened my big mouth, my best friend wouldn't have gotten so angry at me.
Exactly.
So I said something stupid, and my friend did get angry, and now I feel bad about it.
It happens. All right, very good. So I hope it's clear. It does sound a little bit complicated, but this is what our website is for, right? So if you have questions or doubts or you want to try and plant your own ideas, you can come to the website and do it.
Want to make some of your own sentences and practice some of these new things, then come to our website, post some comments, and we are happy to correct and add our own commentary on those.
Exactly. So before we go, let's listen to this dialogue one last time.
This is the good life. We have it good, don't you think?
Yeah, of course. Although, don't you ever wonder what could have been?
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes I think of how things could have turned out if I had done things a little differently.
For example?
Like, for example, if I hadn't studied architecture, I would have become an artist like I wanted to.
I see. Yeah, now that I think of it, I wouldn't have gotten married if I hadn't moved to this town and met Sally.
You see, everything happens for a reason. We wouldn't even have met if I hadn't been in that car accident 10 years ago.
Well, I have no regrets.
I'll drink to that.
All right, we're back. So, Catherine, any other regrets maybe in your life apart from opening your mouth?
Any other regrets? If my parents had spoken Spanish to me as a kid, I would have learned. But instead, I just learned English, and that's all.
Well, your mom is half Swedish, right?
Half Swedish, half Czech.
So, and she never spoke any of these languages to you?
She didn't speak Swedish or Czech. Her parents spoke English as their common language.
Oh, really?
But she grew up speaking Italian and German. But she didn't speak to me in those languages. And then as an adult, she forgot some of them. And so, because my dad, well, they're both Americans now, but my dad's American. They just spoke English to me.
Wow. But now you speak Italian, so do you ever try and talk to your mom in Italian?
Sometimes. My grandmother's Italian is much better, so my grandmother's completely fluent, so I speak to her in Italian.
Oh, wow.
And German as well. She's fluent in German too, and I studied German at school. So
see, this is the interesting thing now. So many people are speaking so many languages, and before, if you spoke another foreign language, it was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's like a requirement. You have to at least dominate your own native language and a foreign language, right? So if your native language is English, you at least have to speak Spanish or Chinese or some other language.
Definitely true. And I think there are a lot of people, a lot of our users that speak maybe 2 or 3 languages, and English is just one more. So, more power to them. This is a really great skill to have, and I think it's really important to keep on going with it, even though it's frustrating sometimes.
Right. And actually, once you've once you mastered 2 or 3 different languages, then the 4th and 5th just becomes easier.
Actually, it's true. It sounds funny when you hear it because you're like, how could it be easier to learn more? But your brain starts to understand patterns better.
Yeah.
Right? And so it just becomes more natural for you.
It picks up patterns from the 2 or 3 other different languages that you dominate. So it's strange how the brain
make
works.
Connections. Yeah.
All right, guys. So that's all for today. Be sure to visit our website, englishpod.com. As we said, any questions or comments, or you want us to correct your grammar of this lesson, you can visit us there, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. To think about.
Wonder.
A person who designs buildings.
Architect.
To end up like.
Turn out.
To ruin or destroy something, like a car.
Wreck.
Used to express a realization.
Now that I think of it.
A feeling of guilt.
Remorse.
To feel sad or sorry about something.
Regret.
To think deeply about something.
Ponder.
A happy and relaxed life.
Good life.
To think fondly about the past.
Reminisce.
An alternative scenario.
Could have been.
The art and science of designing buildings.
Architecture.
A sudden event that is not planned.
Accident.
Let's try that faster. A person who designs buildings.
Architect.
A feeling of guilt.
Remorse.
To end up like.
Turn out.
A happy and relaxed life.
Good life.
To feel sad or sorry about something.
Regret.
An alternative scenario.
Could have been.
The art and science of designing buildings.
Architecture.
To think about.
Wonder.
Used to express a realization.
Now that I think of it.
To ruin or destroy something, like a car.
Wreck.
To think deeply about something.
Ponder.
To think fondly about the past.
Reminisce.
A sudden event that is not planned.
Accident.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Wonder. I wonder what Mike is doing in his room. I think he's building a time machine or something. Wonder. I wonder why Debbie kicked her husband out of the house. Wonder. We often wonder and ask ourselves why we continue to spend money on useless things. Turn out. Our house turned out beautifully. The architect is very talented. Turn out. I'm curious to see how everything will turn out in the next few days. Turn out. It turns out Bob was right. I really do have a drinking problem. Now that I think of it. Actually, now that I think of it, I do have a lawnmower you could borrow. Now that I think of it. Wait, now that I think of it, you owe me $100. Now that I think of it. Now that I think of it, I should have behaved better at the party. Regret. You can't live your life with regrets. Stay positive and optimistic. Regret. Do you have any regrets in life? Regret. I regret to inform you that your dog will never walk again. If I hadn't gone skiing, I wouldn't have broken my leg. If Ellie had studied harder, she would have passed the exam. They wouldn't have missed their flight if they had left home earlier.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine.
And today we're going to be visiting one of my favorite places, I must say.
Really? So you're you're a big meat eater.
I am. I have to have meat every day, so that's why I usually go to the butcher.
All right, so vegetarians, be warned. Today's dialogue is all about eating meat and where to go to get meat. So as Marco said, that place is called the Butcher's.
So we're going to be visiting the butcher, and we're going to learn all the different types of meat you can find there.
Great. So we don't have anything to preview, but before we get started, just like to mention that you're going to hear a lot of different kinds of words, and we'll be back in a minute to talk about what they mean.
Hi, what can I get for you?
I'd like half a pound of ground beef, please.
Good choice. Our ground beef is extra lean, if you know what I mean.
Could I also have half a dozen pork chops and 2 pounds of boneless chicken breast?
No chicken breasts at the moment, but we have some nice chicken thighs.
No, that won't do. I'll take this smoked ham you have here.
Okay, is there anything else?
Is this salami and bologna you have here?
Yes, it's very fine meat. Made it myself.
Sounds good. Okay, that's it.
Wait, we have T-bone, ribeye, and sirloin steaks. They are very fresh. Just came from the slaughterhouse.
No, that's okay, really. I think that's all for today.
Okay, that'll be $34.50.
All right, we're back. So this butcher was kind of creepy in the beginning.
Very creepy in the beginning.
I think that's usually the conception that you have of butchers because they always have a knife and they're always covered in blood, but it's not human blood.
Right, like the movie Sweeney Todd. Did you see that?
Yeah, like Sweeney Todd.
Butcher of Fleet Street.
But we actually took a look at a lot of different types of meat that the woman was ordering. So why don't we take a look at these now in Language Takeaway?
Language takeaway.
Okay, so the first is a classic cut. This is something that we had at my house about once a week growing up. It's called a pork chop.
Pork chop.
Mm-hmm.
So a pork chop comes from the animal, the pork or pig.
Yeah, well, we actually don't say pork to mean the animal. Pork just means the kind of meat that comes from a pig. So big difference there. When we're talking about food, we say pork.
Oh, wow. And what about a pork chop? So what exactly is that?
Chop is usually just on the bone, and oftentimes it's fried. Or baked, I guess. But it's just a piece of pork on the bone, and a chop. You just imagine a knife chopping something.
All right, so a pork chop. Very good. And after pork chops, we were ordering some ground beef.
All right, so ground beef is another important one. Ground beef is beef that's been chopped up and pushed through a machine that kind of pushes it out in very, very small bits and pieces.
Okay.
There's no bones.
So ground comes from the verb to grind. So to grind up meat, to make it very, very small pieces.
Right, so if you want to make a spaghetti bolognese, the kind of beef you use is ground beef, or even hamburgers.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So ground beef, you ground up beef. What other things would you grind?
Oh, you could grind your teeth.
You can grind.
Some people do that when they're sleeping. They grind their teeth. You can grind, you have pepper grinders. You know, peppers sometimes come in balls. And you have to grind them to make them smaller and broken down.
Very good. So that's ground beef and from the verb to grind. Now we are buying some boneless chicken breasts.
All right, so boneless, as you have guessed, means without bones. And chicken breasts are usually just a really nice, juicy, kind of tender cut of meat from the chicken, from the kind of underside of the chicken, where obviously, yeah, they have it. It's not a wing, it's not a leg, it's just a chicken breast.
All right, so boneless chicken breast. Now, usually it is boneless, right, when you buy it at the supermarket.
Yeah. Next up, we've got some classic deli counter favorites. These are our cold cuts.
All right, so cold cuts. Now, this means that they are cold?
Oh, well, yeah, they're cold. But I think cold cuts, the most important thing to remember here is that they're mostly like kinds of salami or cured meats. So these are salt cured or they're dried meats. And you usually have them on sandwiches. So like a salami sandwich.
So like cured meat, you mean that meat hasn't been cooked?
Oh, no, it's not been cooked, but it's treated in a way that allows it to last for a very long time.
All right,
so they look like long tubes of meat.
Or they look very dry. So
Look very dry, like beef
right.
jerky, for example.
All right, so cured meat. Now, for example, we have salami and bologna.
Bologna.
Now, it's interesting because bologna is actually spelled B-O-L-O-G-N-A. So you would say bologna or something like that.
Well, I think it comes from the Italian Bologna.
All right.
But it's definitely a change that happened in the English language when it came over from Italy. But bologna is a kind of meat it's got a very funny looking name.
Yeah, see, you're more sophisticated than I am. That's why you know this difference.
I just speak Italian, so no.
All right, so you have salami, bologna, and
pastrami.
What about ham? Is that considered a cold cut?
You can have ham in the cold cut section because ham sometimes comes in tubes that you slice. But ham is also just a normal kind of pork. But ham is cured, you know.
Like a smoked ham.
Exactly.
All
or
right.
smoked turkey, one of my favorites.
Very good. And now moving on from the cold cuts, we're going to concentrate on steaks.
Ooh, steaks. So there are 1,000 kinds of steaks in this world, and every city seems to have its own kind. But here we're only looking at 3, the first of which is the T-bone.
All right, the T-bone steak, I think, is one of the most popular ones.
Definitely.
It's a steak that's pretty big, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it can be.
And it has a bone inside that looks like a T.
All right, so you're saying, Marco, that the T-bone is named after the shape and the look of this steak.
Yeah, T-bone steak.
All right.
And as well as our next one is also a rib eye.
Okay, so the rib eye, I think, actually has a piece of the rib in it. So the rib is the bone, and there's a circle, which is kind of the piece of meat is sliced off the rib, and the circle is actually part of that rib. So there's a little bit of bone in it, but it's not as bony as the T-bone.
Right. So it does have one small bone that kind of looks like an eye because you can see through it. And our next steak has no bone and is the most tender and the best steak you can have, sirloin steak.
So I think the sirloin is definitely the most expensive if you're in a restaurant. Definitely the most tender, I think, of all those.
It's delicious. And usually you can have like a big sirloin steak, like a half a kilo, like a 400-gram sirloin steak.
I had a friend who ate a full kilo sirloin steak.
Wow. Is it a competition or?
No, there's a kind of steak called la bistecca alla fiorentina in Italy. It's the Florentine beef steak. And it can be about a kilo of meat.
Wow.
I
bet you can't even move after that.
No, you fall asleep with your head in your soup on the table.
All right, so that's all the meat-related words that we have for you today. So why don't we move on now to Fluency Builder, where we're going to take a look at some of the phrases in this dialogue.
Fluency Builder.
We're going to look at the phrases, if you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean. Now, I love this phrase, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
Well, it's
I
weird.
like it too.
So you can use it for sarcasm.
Yeah.
Right? Or you can use it to kind of insinuate something, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So here's what you're saying. You're saying there's a double meaning in what I want to say. So there's two things I could say, and I'm not going to say it outright, but this thing that we can't really say.
So, for example, we can say,
she likes to go out, if you know what I mean.
All right, so you're insinuating that not only does she like to go out, but maybe
she goes out a lot.
Or maybe she gets drunk or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a double meaning, but you're trying to be subtle.
Yeah, but it's not so subtle because you're actually saying, like, this is not what I mean. Or, she's eating for two, if you know what I mean.
Oh, there we go. So you're insinuating that, well, you're not really insinuating, you're telling me that.
She's pregnant. Eating for two is a common idiom in English that means that a woman, is going to have a baby. So here I'm saying, hey, do you know this idiom? She's eating for two, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Wink, wink, wink.
Wink, wink. So now, why don't we take a look at some other examples of how we could use if you know what I mean in different circumstances when you're trying to insinuate something.
Example 1.
She's eating for two now, if you know what I mean.
Example 2.
Tim hit a home run today, if you know what I mean.
Example 3.
Jim and Laura are going their separate ways, if you know what I mean.
All right, we're back. So now that that's clear, why don't we move on to our next phrase?
So this one is a counting phrase, and for those of you who have heard the word dozen before, it might not be so new. The phrase is half a dozen.
Half a dozen. So that means half of 12.
12. So a dozen is 12. And I'm not really sure when this started being used in English, but a dozen is 12. And half a dozen is then 6.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's another phrase or another saying that's very common, a dime a dozen.
He's a dime a dozen.
Mm-hmm. So that means you can get 12 of the same type of guys for 10 cents.
Right. So they're easy to find.
They're easy to find.
Yeah.
The dime a dozen. All right, very good. And moving on to our last one. When they were talking, they said something about the meat being lean, extra lean.
Okay, lean, this does not mean lean on a door.
Right.
This is not like resting on something. This is actually a kind of way to describe food.
Mm-hmm.
And so food is lean if it's not got much fat. It's not fatty.
Okay, so if it's lean, it doesn't have much fat.
Exactly. So I prefer to eat lean meats. So I often eat birds and poultry. So chicken, I like it pretty lean. And if it's got fat on it, I'll cut the fat off.
Oh, okay, like the skin.
Mm-hmm.
The skin is fat, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you can have lean beef. It doesn't have much fat around it.
Yeah, and in America, actually, on the packages at the supermarket, it often says the percentage of meat that you have. So it's 95% lean or 98% lean.
So that means you have 3% fat in there.
Exactly.
Or
2%.
98. My math skills are amazing. All right, so now that we've finished with all of these words on Fluency Builder, let's take a look at our dialogue for the last time.
Hi, what can I get for you?
I'd like half a pound of ground beef, please.
Good choice. Our ground beef is extra lean, if you know what I mean.
Could I also have half a dozen pork chops and 2 pounds of boneless chicken breast?
No chicken breasts at the moment, but we have some nice chicken thighs.
No, that won't do. I'll take this smoked ham you have here.
Okay, is there anything else?
Is this salami and bologna you have here?
Yes, it's very fine meat. Made it myself.
Sounds good. Okay, that's it.
Wait, we have T-bone, ribeye, and sirloin steaks. They are very fresh. Just came from the slaughterhouse.
No, that's okay, really. I think that's all for today.
Okay, that'll be $34.50.
All right, we're back. So, Catherine, are you a big beef or meat eater?
Definitely am. It helps that my partner in crime is from Kansas City, and they have the best, among the best steaks in our entire country in Kansas City. Yeah.
Wow. I actually miss, there was, back in California, we had the $6 burger from Carl's Jr. It was just basically beef, bacon, cheese. It was just like this huge burger with full of meat and obviously a lot of calories.
Oh, yeah.
But it was delicious. In Ecuador, we are very used to having some meat product every day with our food.
Yeah, well, it's the same in the Midwest, actually, from where we're from. It's the same in the Midwest because people in the Midwest generally think that if you're not eating meat, then what are you eating? Bread?
Right.
Corn?
Yeah.
So meat is considered a healthy part of the day, and you definitely eat it with your meals.
Yeah, and I'm sure our vegetarian listeners might not appreciate this, but it's just kind of different diets. Some people eat, for example, rice every day.
Mm-hmm.
So where in other countries you wouldn't really have rice every day. Or for example, when I was in Chile, I had a lot of potatoes.
Really?
A lot of potato.
Have you ever had an Argentine steak? I hear they have the best beef in the world.
They are not only delicious, but they are very inexpensive, and it's amazing. You can have a complete steak buffet for I don't know, I can't even remember, but it was just, I sat there for 3 hours and couldn't move and kept eating.
Yeah, is it true you can eat it with a spoon? It's so soft?
Some of the meat is very, very tender, and not if it's grilled, you can't really do that, but in other preparations, it's almost like that.
With a nice butter sauce. Herbs.
All right, so
making me hungry.
I know, you've made me hungry. I think we're going to take off and have some a burger or something right now. All right, so if you have any questions, any comments, please come to our website at englishpod.com, and we're there to answer any doubts.
And we'd love to know what your favorite foods are, meat or otherwise, so post something on our website. Hope to see you there soon.
Bye.
Bye.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. Beef that has been put through a grinder.
Ground beef.
A type of meat from a large bird, similar to chicken. Turkey. Having a low fat content.
Lean.
Used to express the listener is aware of something that is assumed to be known.
If you know what I mean.
A type of small sausage.
Hot dog.
A cut of pork in a individual size. Pork chop. A type of knife a butcher uses.
Cleaver.
With the bones removed.
Boneless.
The table that a butcher works on.
Chopping block.
The meaty breast portion of a chicken.
Chicken breast.
The waxy paper a butcher uses to wrap meat in.
Butcher paper.
The upper leg portion of meat on a chicken.
Chicken thigh.
A ham which has been seasoned with smoke.
Smoked ham.
Cold cooked meat used for sandwiches.
Cold cuts.
Spicy dry sausage.
Salami.
A thick piece of beef with a T-shaped bone in it.
T-bone.
A tender cut of beef from the outer side of the rib.
Rib eye.
A piece of beef from the lower back of the cow.
Sirloin.
A slice of beef.
Steak.
The place where animals are killed for their meat.
Slaughterhouse.
Wide sausage that is sliced.
Bologna.
Let's try that faster. The meaty breast portion of a chicken.
Chicken breast.
Spicy dry sausage.
Salami.
Used to express the listener is aware of something that is assumed to be known.
If you know what I mean.
A type of small sausage.
Hot dog.
A ham which has been seasoned with smoke.
Smoked ham.
Wide sausage that is sliced.
Bologna.
Having a low fat content.
Lean.
Cold cooked meat used for sandwiches.
Cold cuts.
A slice of beef.
Steak.
The upper leg portion of meat on a chicken.
Chicken thigh.
A cut of pork in a individual size.
Pork chop.
A thick piece of beef with a T-shaped bone in it.
T-bone.
The place where animals are killed for their meat.
Slaughterhouse.
Beef that has been put through a grinder.
Ground beef.
A type of knife a butcher uses.
Cleaver.
A type of meat from a large bird, similar to chicken.
Turkey.
With the bones removed.
Boneless.
A tender cut of beef from the outer side of the rib.
Rib eye.
A piece of beef from the lower back of the cow.
Sirloin.
The waxy paper a butcher uses to wrap meat in.
Butcher paper.
The table that a butcher works on.
Chopping block.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Ground beef. You should be sure that ground beef is cooked well. Otherwise, you can get sick. Ground beef. Today's special is ground beef at only 99 cents a pound while supplies last. Ground beef. These Italian meatballs are made from ground beef, salt, pepper, and a pinch of garlic powder. Lean. Tommy is on a diet, so he only eats extra lean meat. Lean. Look at that girl over there. She is so lean. I don't think there is an ounce of fat on her body. Lean. We want to make the company leaner and more responsive to the demands of the market. If you know what I mean. This beef is so fresh, I think I can still hear it mooing, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean. I know what you mean. The internet is so slow, I'm not sure I'm even connected. If you know what I mean. Boy, John's wife is really mad at him. I guess he's really in the doghouse, if you know what I mean. Cold cuts. Are we all prepared for the picnic? Let's see here. We have bread, cold cuts, mustard, silverware, plates. Cold cuts. Honey, don't forget to buy the cold cuts on your way home. Buy some sliced roast turkey and whatever else you want. Cold cuts. I would prefer a bowl of steaming noodles rather than some stale bread and cold cuts. Steak. Before I got this great job, I was so poor, but now it's steak for dinner every night. Steak. I can't finish this whole steak. It's bigger than my head. Steak. You can choose how long your steak is cooked. Rare steak often still has blood in it, while well done is almost entirely burnt.